In this video, I will give you all 6 players plus bonus options for the single game Showdown captain mode on DraftKings tonight as the top 2 seeds in the AFC South battle it out for what could very well be the make or break game for whether the Titans or Colts will be deemed kings of the division. My name's Quick Pick Nick, and having simulated a few 100,000 different 6-man roster builds, here are your locks and lotteries for Thursday Night Football tonight, November 12th, 2020. If you like this kind of fast-paced calculated content, subscribe and stay tuned for more lineups throughout the season, including both morning and afternoon slate lineups for Week 10 this Sunday. To start off the lineup, this slate was definitely an interesting one, as for the first time this season, there really wasn't a clear, definitive MVP option. Out of the top 10 lineups simulated ranked by projected fantasy points, there were 4 different options at MVP, but the one player who was slotted in at MVP 6 of those 10 simulations, as well as the player who will be able to save us the most cash overall throughout the entire lineup, is our first lock, Philip Rivers. Rivers has certainly had his problems in his new home of Indianapolis, completing passes to other teams more often than his own. However, Rivers has recently rebounded due to his veteran understanding of the game and has shown sparks of proficiency. Over the Colts' past 4 contests, Rivers has thrown 3 touchdown passes in 2 of them, but failed to score even 1 touchdown in the remaining 2. Those 2 games in which Rivers triumphed were against Detroit and Cincinnati, teams with notably weaker secondaries, and the 2 teams that caused some problems for Rivers included Baltimore and Cleveland, 2 more stout defenses. It seems like Rivers is very hot and cold depending on his matchup, and on the surface, the Titans might look like a solid defensive team. Upon closer inspection though, Tennessee really only shines on the ground, because when it comes to their secondary, the Titans have given up the 27th most passing yards per game and the 31st most passing touchdowns per game in the league, paving the way for another great day for Rivers. As the 4th option on the price list on DraftKings too, the money we save can be put towards other big names in the flex position, starting with our second lock, Derrick Henry. There really isn't much that needs to be said about this absolute unit of a running back, as he has made many professional athletes look like schoolyard defenders during his time with the Titans. Granted, he's certainly had his struggles this year, falling below 7 fantasy points last week against the Bears, but what's important to note about that game is Henry's volume. The Titans kept running the ball with Henry, giving him the rock 21 times, and this high volume has been the norm for Tennessee throughout 2020, ranking Henry first in both overall carries and carries per game in the NFL. This kind of volume almost guarantees points regardless of opponent. The 3rd and final lock of this lineup is going to be a much cheaper option that will allow us to spend generously over the next 3 lotteries, that being Anthony Firkser. As the second tight end on the Titans depth chart, you wouldn't really expect much opportunity to come from this kind of player, but Tannehill has been set on getting him the ball anyways. Last week alone, Firkser saw 6 passes thrown his way, which is more than enough attention for a player in this low of a price bracket at just $2,200 on DraftKings. His yardage isn't bad either, averaging 35 yards per game, which in combination with his decent number of receptions should be enough to warrant his low cost. For the first lottery of this lineup, my model found Tennessee's top receiver, A.J. Brown. The reason Brown is a lottery is because of the Colts' tough pass defense, allowing the 3rd least yards through the air per game to opposing teams. But Brown is still an essential part of this Titans offense, averaging a touchdown per game at this point, scoring at least 1 in every contest this season aside from Week 1. Plus, Brown ranks in the top 16 among wide receivers in the league in both receiving yards per game and targets per game. The second lottery is Nyheim Hines, as although he shares a backfield with the Colts' 2 other running backs of Jonathan Taylor and Jordan Wilkins, Hines is the pass catcher and route runner of this committee. Hines ranks 4th in the league for receiving touchdowns per game among running backs, and going up against a defense that has allowed 1.2 receiving touchdowns per game themselves, we may have the privilege of seeing another flippy-dippy twisting gymnastic triple helical finish once more. To round out the lineup, my model selected Trey Burton, as Rivers seems to finally be finding his groove with his tight ends, just like he did back in LA with Hunter Henry. Burton hasn't had a game with less than 4 targets this season and found the end zone in 2 of his 5 contests so far, which may be added on to further tonight with this pass vulnerable matchup. One player you'll notice we left out is Ryan Tannehill, as he is very expensive on DraftKings and will need to throw the ball against the 3rd ranked defense in passing yards allowed per game. If you do want to see an alternate option including Tennessee's QB though, you could swap out the 3 lotteries for Tannehill himself, Jonnu Smith, a consistent tight end from earlier in the season, but one that has fallen off as of late, and Rodrigo Blankenship, the specs-wearing kicker with the coolest name in the NFL that just doesn't seem to miss. Smith is the unknown variable of this lineup though, as he hasn't played all too well over the past few weeks, so you could look into potentially downgrading him to Zach Pascal, another Colt who we may see in the end zone, or Hines, but either way, I believe the first option should be the stronger one, with the second acting as an excuse for when all my picks turn out to be busts. That's what my model was able to come up with for the Thursday Night Football single game Showdown captain mode on DraftKings tonight, this Thursday, November 12th. This has been Quick Pick Nick, the intersection for sports, data analysis, and beat. Thanks for watching.